Um, all right, guys, let's watch this. It's called Dave Chappelle Reveals How He Became the World's Greatest Comedian. And I'm going to wear my trucker hat so that I look like I look racist. Oh. You know what's crazy, though? I do look like your typical conservative, which is actually very interesting because there's studies that show that there is a link between political affiliation and genetics, which means that all of us, based on what we feel, there may be a level of genetics or, a level of genetics associated with it, which means we're all going to have to just live with each other. Obviously not the radicals on either side, but most people, I think, are reasonably level-headed. Anyway, let's get off our tangent and let's get on this.
Experience with the Klan. They came to my house.
Are you glad this thing's over?
I didn't even call the police. I wanted to, but I couldn't. My mother used to let me understand that I'm being raised in a hostile environment.
I know the difference of people laughing with me and people laughing at me.
I guess you said, I don't want your show anymore, and you took a hike.
Would you say you lost your mind, sort of?
Chappelle pulls the race card.
Everybody wants to know, why'd you walk away?
He could have filled up arenas, man. Crazy.
So yeah, I don't think I can do this, and I quit. And that was it. Have you ever had something happen that was so racist that you didn't even get mad? You were just like, God damn, that was racist. I had an experience with the Klan. They came to my...
I know him and Jon Stewart have worked together. Now, Jon Stewart, he was a little sussy the other day, but I still love him a lot. And Dave Chappelle's actually very intelligent when it comes to, advocating for black issues. It's very interesting. You guys should give a look at some of the things that him and especially with Jon Stewart have talked about together.
House when I was little. It was real scary. They came in the middle of the night on horseback, burning cross on the sidewalk, beating on the door, all belligerent. Come on out, you black sons of bitches!
I imagine they didn't say that.
Me and my brother, we were like horrified. We were just hiding in the closet, peeking out. But my mother, this is a strong woman, my mother, she went right to the door and opened it and gave him candy. From a young age, I noticed people were treating me different. These kids were just so mean and evil, but I didn't understand why they were treating me different.
My mother used to let me understand the context that I was being raised in.
That's so fucked up, bro. Because we just watched that Daryl Davis video where he said that when he was 10 years old, I think he was 10 at the time, he was walking in a parade and he was there's only 2 black kids in the school, and he was just getting rocks thrown at him, and he thought that he just did something wrong because he was getting rocks and shit thrown at him, and he got bruised up and shit. And I feel like nobody, I don't know, I just feel like I've never heard this. These are the really. These are the moments where I feel like we don't hear enough of this. We hear a lot about very complicated conversations about systemic racism. We're flooded with that type of information. But I feel like I haven't really heard somebody say I was a kid, and the first thought is when you're a kid, you're a blank slate. You're just a kid. Nothing matters. You don't understand anything. You don't understand identities. You're just a kid in the world, and you're just getting treated like shit, and you don't even know why. And I feel like all of us can identify with that, getting punished for not doing something that you didn't do wrong. Obviously, I can't identify with the way it happened to him, but when I was younger, I had friends who used to do things they used to put Barbie dolls in the oven. And then they would blame it on me so that their mom would get mad at me because the mom wouldn't get as mad at me as at them. And they would do that a lot. So I kind of felt, I feel like a lot of times people do stuff like that. And I feel it makes me feel frustrated. Of course, not even close to this way, but I can identify with that. That's horrible. Could you imagine? You just didn't do anything wrong. And then now the parents have to have a complicated conversation about this thing. And it's it's they hit 10 years old before this conversation happens. Why wait so long? And the reason they wait so long is because you don't want to have that conversation. It's I hope I don't have to explain to my kid why people treat them less than because they're just black. And I feel for a white person, the comparable experience is imagine you have a daughter and you have to teach your daughter when she goes out to a party to just be safe. Teach your daughter to just not walk around. Don't be alone. Teach her that she can never be secure by herself. She has to be with somebody to take care of her, and that she has to reciprocate that energy to every other girl she's friends with, so that they don't get taken advantage of. You know what I mean? That's the only comparable experience that I can have. I know this is we're getting woke, but I'm a fucking straight white guy, So I'm I don't know if I'll ever have I probably will never have a comparable experience unless something insane happens, which I hope it doesn't. You know? And like that's the best that I can empathize with. It's fucking horrible, bro. That's terrible.
I'm being raised in a hostile environment that I have to tame. By the time I was 14 years old, I was in nightclubs, mastering an adult world. It was terrifying.
What made you get on stage at the age of 14?
The fear of death. When I was in high school,
Hold on, I don't know what he said.
Get on stage at the age of 14.
The nightclubs, mastering an adult world. It was terrifying.
What made you get on stage at the age of 14?
Oh, get on stage. Okay, I didn't hear what he was saying.
The fear of death. When I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, almost 600 kids my age got murdered in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Happy, man. You know, that made a real big impression on me. That and the fact that D.C. is a very segregated city, especially at that time. Statistically speaking, to this day, there's not one poor white person in Washington. There's a lot of poor black people in Washington.
And my mother used to tell me this thing. I don't know if you remember, but you said this to me more than once. You said, son, sometimes you have to be a lion so you can be the lamb you really are. And I told my mother, you can ask her.
That's some sad shit, brother.
I said, Mom, I'm going to make it all the way to the top of the socio-economic ladder. I'm just a smart kid.
My dad takes me outside and he's like, listen, everybody wants to make it, and you might not make it. And I said to my dad, well, that depends on what making it is, Dad. And he started laughing. He said, if you keep that attitude, I think you should go. He said, but name your price in the beginning. If it ever gets more expensive than the price you name, get out of there.
Wow.
He was the hottest comedian in the country. Then he mysteriously disappeared. Why Dave Chappelle walked away from $50 million.
Nobody knew where you were going. Now that sounds a little crazy.
Bro, the crazy part too is that, like, you know, I don't even think Oprah, maybe I'm just wrong about this, but I don't even remember. Nobody was talking about it. Everybody talked about how Dave Chappelle was just fucking insane. Dave Chappelle was just fucking insane. He just disappeared for no reason, and then he got famous, and he should have just like done anything that people wanted, and like we all do the same, you know. And it's like, I feel like even Oprah didn't communicate that racial element well. Maybe that's just because I was young and I didn't hear it well. But fuck.
I guess you said, I don't want your show anymore, and you took a hike.
It's one of the strangest and most controversial things to happen in the entertainment world. Everybody wants to know, why'd you walk away from $50 million? Would you say you lost your mind, sort of?
I get a call on my cell phone from Hollywood. They're like, that
He was even uncomfortable with that question.
pilot you did for Fox, looks like they want to pick it up. I went out and I sat with these people in this room. Yeah, Dave, we really like the show, but we're thinking about the girl on the show. I think we should recast her, maybe. And they start using terms like universal appeal. Basically saying they want me to recast a girl, a white woman.
Yeah.
I was doing sketches that were funny, but socially irresponsible. Like there's this one sketch we did that was about this pixie that would appear whenever racist things happen. Whenever someone make you feel like they calling you that N-word, but don't say it. But the pixie was in blackface because this was going to be the visual personification of the N-word. But what I didn't consider is the way people use television is subjective. So then when I'm on the set and we're finally taping the sketch, somebody on the set that was white laughed in such a way, and it was the first time I'd ever gotten a laugh that I was uncomfortable with. I said, yeah, I don't think I can do this. And so I bounced, man. And that was it. As far as I was concerned, I was done with show business.
That was a irreconcilable moment for me, that I was in this very successful place, but the emotional content of it didn't feel anything like what I imagined success should feel like. It just didn't feel right. My house got robbed in New York. I didn't even call the police. I wanted to, but I couldn't. My crib is too nice. It's not that it's too nice, but it's too nice for me. You know how the police are in New York. Soon as I open the doors, they'll be like, oh, he's still here. Open and shut case, Johnson. Apparently, this black guy broke in and hung up pictures of his family everywhere. The hardest thing to do is to be true to yourself, especially when everybody's watching. This idea that what you do in your lifetime informs the generations that comes after you is something I keep thinking about, something that is so much bigger than just ourselves. I've been gone for a very long time. Surprise, it's me.
Now he is back with a 3-part stand-up comedy special.
We're living in a time where there's got to be a little more cultural sensitivity. And even a guy like me that's just writing jokes.
It's interesting. Like, I respect what he's saying. I wonder though, like, in truly, because I respect what he's saying. I wonder if he actually like feels he applied cultural sensitivity to trans people. Because I think that's a real question that should be asked, right? Like his joke, I think that the jokes were funny, but they're a little insensitive. I wonder if he feels that he was culturally sensitive to trans people. Not, you know, and I don't know if maybe you wouldn't say that there's like a trans culture. I think there probably is, but I think you know what I mean. You know, because when he says cultural sensitivity, it sounds like he's being like sensitive to groups of people, to like marginalized individual.
Story that happened back in January of 2015 that involves Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle did an impromptu set, and he said a clearly privileged white girl shouts, "Life's hard, sorry about it," when he starts talking about police brutality. Joy Ellen Nicole came back and said, "I told her to leave," but Dave Chappelle said, "No, bring her back." But he didn't attack her, he didn't yell, he didn't make fun of her. He started educating the crowd on the history of black people and the police. And she said, "I'm sorry for what I said. Thank you for educating me. I was ignorant before, but I want you to know I learned from you tonight, and I won't say things like that anymore."
Wow. This is a tough discussion, but it needs to be had. And people need to learn the lessons, and we need to listen to one another. It's a tough time for this country, man. You don't let anybody tell you you can't or to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid, because you can't be brave or courageous without fear. The idea of being courageous is that even though you're scared, you just do the right thing anyway.
Today we're going to show the world that nothing will get us down. No matter what's going on, no matter how tough these times get, we hold our heads up high because we know what we're about.
You got to take a stand.
It's really interesting, man. It's really interesting if we take a step back and we kind of like consider the world. It seems like comedians are like the best activists, like legitimate like comedians, like people who are funny and people who are real, people who are very grounded, people because that's what humor is about, being able to make fun of things, have some like really make fun of things, have some fun, be a little edgy. And there's something very humanizing about the experience of making fun of people and like in like respectful, silly ways though. And there's something very real about it. And I think part of it maybe is because we all know it's like a little bad. You know, it's like it's not the best, but it's a humanizing experience because the justification for jokes is really nothing more than like pure human positive emotion, or you know, or emotional invocation in some capacity. And there's like a trust that you usually give to comedians, especially ones I think that lean on like the edgier side, but because like all the best comedians tend to be like the best like activists and have like the best worldview and perspective, and they try to communicate. And there's just like a level of reputability I feel for a lot of comedians, where you look at them and like, you know, you trust Dave Chappelle more when he talks about black issues. And then he's like, why? And it's because because the jokes that he makes you enjoy, and you enjoy him as a person, and they're very real and they're very raw. I don't know, man. Maybe it's like it's probably not like a particularly incredible or revealing thought. But for me, like it's a very new concept of like a realization of like, wow. You know, what is it about comedians? Like Joe Rogan. What is it about comedians that people respect so much more? You know, and maybe it's because comedians tend to make joking commentary about the world we live in a way that's like usually more palatable and like humorous, and like it really hits you. It's very anecdotal. It's very personal. You know, like you listen to somebody go on, you know, with an educational conversation about systemic racism, and you're like, well, but then you hear just a black guy on stage just telling you, like, you know, like just an experience that he had. Like, wow. Yeah, Joe Rogan's a comedian. And you're like, wow, that's horrible, you know? And that's like the first thought. It's like, wow. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't have to be this deep conversation about like systemic racism. Sometimes it just has to be like, wow, this is a person who went through a thing. It's just weird, man. It's just, I don't know what the phenomenon is. I don't know why people feel more comfortable. I don't. I just know I do. You know? Thank you so much for watching, guys. And another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down to the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.